Welcome to the Heat Treat Podcast, sponsored by Matza, Creo, and Super Systems.
Today, we have a very special guest joining us. He's an experienced engineer with a remarkable career spanning decades in the heat treat industry, from captive heat treating to commercial heat treating, and now working for one of the largest furnace manufacturers in North America, AFC Holcroft. He has seen it all. Trust me when I say he has seen it all. Please welcome Don Longenette to our podcast. Don, it's such a pleasure to have you here.
Thank you, Carlos. Thank you for inviting me in.
So, you've seen it all. You've been in the industry for, let's say, 40 years. Is that accurate, Don?
Yes, 40 years and counting.
So, I'm counting. If there is someone out there who knows about heat treat and furnaces, from running them, fixing them, operating them, debugging them, and then managing them, and now that you work with an OEM designing them, it is you. So it's great to have you here. You have traveled all across the globe, looking to different heat treatments, applications, or heat treats in different parts of the world, both captive and commercials. And today we're going to talk about those differences between captive and commercials and across the globe. But first of all, can you just give us a little background of your vast career? You have worked for OEMs, you have worked for commercial heat treaters, and now you're working with a furnace manufacturer. But I do believe that there's a lot of merit to show the audience all the experience, all the mileage that you have on heat treat, because I saw it firsthand.
Yeah, so I originally started out in the captive in heat treat with the Timken company in Canton, Ohio, and I went around the world with them before I was done doing installation in some of their plants in other countries, of course, and moved from there to a couple smaller heat treat service organizations. I've been to Body Coat for 15 years, one time for engineering manager, built factories in Asia for them, Mexico, United States, everywhere. I've traveled for them, and we did my own service group for a while, and did installations for AFC, Holcroft, startups around the world for them, and did my stunt as a general manager for a little bit in the heat treat in Southern Ohio. And that I still wanted back on the equipment side. I was not a very good general manager, let's put it that way. So, and that put me back to where I am now, back with AFC Holcroft as a sales engineer, aftermarket group.
And thanks for the insight, Don. And I do believe that you shared it. You shared your career on a very modest way, because you being in many places, you made a very big benchmark of your name. You have worked in a lot of plants and fixed a lot of plants, and you have not only designed the furnaces, you have designed the plants and make them run, which is I do believe sometimes it's even harder, to have a profitable plant than a functional furnace. But now let's go a little into subject, because you have had the opportunity to work on both captive and commercial heat treating, and now you're with a furnace manufacturer. That gives you a very well-rounded perspective on the industry. If someone asks you to explain the key difference between captive and commercial heat treating, what would your first response will be?
I guess my captive side would be when they go into the heat treat, they end up doing a program, and they would basically possibly buy one furnace or several only for one specific product line, and that would run for a couple of years. So your furnaces, same type of furnaces, but they would be more designed specifically for running one product all the time for a few years, as long as that program lasted. But when you go to the commercial side, you can get the same kind of furnace, but they're going to have to fit it for several different product lines because they don't always have that beauty of having the same product to keep their furnaces full and running all the time. So that's basically one would be designed for specific run of one type product, and the other would be have to be a well-rounded furnace for a lot of different.
And do you think one is more challenging than the other, or does it depends on a specific circumstances?
I think the challenge, not one would be more than the other because like the captive side is going to be dedicated to making that product perfect every time coming out. And you have some leeway when you have a little bit of leeway if it's a different product line. You got to change parameters of your furnace all the time to meet that. So challenge is pretty much the same everywhere, but to keep that, it's I don't know, it's the challenge would be to get different product line coming in all the time, right? The sales, get the sales to get the same in a commercial side to get sales to keep your furnace full all the time. That would be the challenge. But as long as you have on the captive side a product same line like one of the automakers, right? You're going to have those gears, those going to keep coming and coming and coming. But on the commercial side, you got to keep going out for different workflow.
And both commercial heat treaters and captive heat treaters, they have to deal with OEMs or furnace manufacturers. Now that you are with AFC Holcroft, that must be a big shift from being on the operational side of heat treating to the furnace supplier side. Now, do you have more or less sympathy for challenges furnace manufacturers face nowadays that you see on the other side of the equation?
I feel I've always tried to keep a good relationship with the suppliers, but I know there's been a few, I'm sure there's been a few people could say there was some heated discussions at times at the table when we're speccing the equipment and
Sure.
pricing. But I probably have more respect right now by joining with AFC to see what's behind the scene to make all that. The engineering support, the sales support, 100-year-old furnaces, 100-year-old companies, right? And to still go back on records of 50, 60 years ago, and you have the people to call on behind the scene that can go find those prints, go find that file on these furnaces and dig out all the information you have. So you don't see that when you're just asking for an RFQ from these companies. But now that I'm inside and I go in behind the scene, I have a lot more respect for them.
And it's always interesting to see things from a different lens, like how you expressed. What's something that really surprised you when you transitioned into this role of aftermarket?
I would have to say the same thing, right? It was the support. If somebody calls in and says, I have a blue screw that's crooked 30-degree angle on it from a furnace, there's somebody in that department that's going to go, I know that part. A little bit different, but there's always somebody there that's going to find the answer for them. And that's what I'm talking about, the support behind the scene. And you don't get that from most perspective, just like I say, when you ask for an RFQ for a part or for a furnace or whatever, you don't see all those faces until now. So I have to give them more respect than what I did before, now that I are one of them.
And you're a proud American and a great engineer, and you have a lot of experience with your furnaces and worldwide. So, talking about your international experience over your course of your career, you have worked in countries like China, India, Mexico. I assume Europe. I don't know. I will assume it, and heavily in the US that you're focusing right now. Would you say that heat treating is the same wherever you go, or there are significant differences?
I would say the heat treating basic heat treat is the same everywhere, but the way they handle it in a lot of countries, I would have to say on the safety side is probably the safety and the operational side. Some of those are questionable in some countries, and but the basic heat treat process is pretty much the same everywhere.
How about automation, spare parts? I mean, there's some, you're in aftermarket right now, and some critical spare parts are very specialized, take a long time, and sometimes are not available in some countries. How those heat treats manage those critical spare parts when there's a failure?
Most of them it's pretty much here too. I mean, you talk about critical spare parts. There's very few companies out there that actually go after those critical spare parts. So they try to have the OEM to hold some spare parts where they can call up and get quick delivery, but it's pretty much handled the same everywhere as far as what I can see. Um, there's a few companies out there that take care of their critical spare parts, but most of them rely on the OEM to make sure they've got access to them when they need them.
And what about when the furnaces start to age and the companies start to do upgrades without documentation and grab things from here and there, and then you have kind of a Frankenstein machine there, and it's not safe or it's not working correctly. How do companies address that differently, and which is the suggestion you make? Because everything takes money and nobody has like a limited budget. Uh, what would you say is the optimal balance in order to maintain a heat treat when cash is not raining?
That one's that one actually that's where I'm currently in my role now. They brought me into the aftermarket engineer and we're expanding the aftermarket division because the last few years there's been a lot of loss in the maintenance programs, a lot of people with experience retiring, and
Yeah,
the maintenance in most plants right now are very not
very basic.
not not experienced like they have. The experienced people have left. They're trying hard, but that's where they try to fix it, and that's where we're coming in now. And I think it's every market right now is seeing an increase in the aftermarket. We're getting a lot of calls to come in to help repair, rebuild, and bring these back into condition. So they're trying, but the with the maintenance lost out there in the last few years, there's a lot of work to do, and we're still seeing it. A lot of the maintenance, the young maintenance engineers that's coming in, they're getting overworked and they're leaving very quick in these places. So we're here coming in and helping, but it's a transition period right now, I believe.
Yes, that's very insightful. And are there any lessons you learned from working in different countries that you think the American industry could benefit from in the maintenance aspect or after service?
I don't think from the experience in different countries, no. It's pretty much to me, it's pretty much all the same. Well, from Mexico to United States, there's not much difference, in my opinion.
It is, well, especially on maintenance job or furnace operators. Well, even in metallurgists, I always agree with the comment that you're saying that I do believe our industry is losing the experience and the talent at a much faster pace that is recruiting. So a lot of people are leaving or are retiring that were very experienced in the job for like yourself, 4 years in the market, and we are not recruiting fast enough the new guys because it takes time to understand furnaces. What would you say will be a time frame for a newbie, a rookie, to become familiar with furnaces, general maintenance, because there's a lot of safety, which we're going to talk about in the next section about on furnaces. I mean, you cannot just leave a rookie maintenance guy to maintain a furnace when we have gases, atmosphere, heat. How will you be comfortable delegating a maintenance to a guy in the night shift?
You would either have specific guidelines where you're only to do this, and report
Right.
if something's out of place here, report. And to me, you're going to need 8 to 10 years experience on a furnace to understand completely what's going on inside that furnace at every moment, to be able to leave someone alone. And basically, it would never leave anybody 100% one-on-one with alone on the furnace. You're always going to need two people.
And as a follow-up, you've been in the industry for over more than 30 years, let's say 40. I imagine you have seen quite a bit of a change, especially on furnace technology. How much has technology evolved during your career, and what has been like the ups and downs, in your opinion?
When I first started, there was a Hocking Technical College in Southern Ohio, was an associate program for heat processing. We did pack carburizing back then. And I don't know if a lot of people might not even know what that is today.
I don't know about pack carburizing.
It's packing the steel rod in carbon material and putting it in a furnace and pulling it out, and it's that carbon diffused to the part through it was charcoal we smashed up. But that's packed carburizing, and that the furnace alone, the technology, pretty much the same as it was. The difference is in the gas carburizing, and all that is all now electronic. We used Alnor instruments for checking the dew point, or an ORSAT for checking the gas analyzer, which looked like a series of test tubes, and it's a pain in the butt. But
it was how it used to work, right?
Right. But now with all the electronic gas analyzers and everything, and carbon probes, oxygen probes, everything that's controlling the furnace now that we used to just do manually. So the furnace itself technology is pretty much the same basic furnace, what hell had been for thousands of years, right? Heat treat's been around forever, and the difference is the technology of the control side now. It's all going electronic, and it's good stuff. But as far as the base furnace goes, not much has changed in 40 years.
And I want to touch on a lateral subject here, and I don't want the conversation to go that way. But right now we're talking about conventional and atmosphere furnaces. There was a big jump into LPC and vacuum furnaces, and there were some talks, let's say in the 2000s, that atmosphere furnaces were gonna fade away, and the dominant player were going to be vacuum furnaces, LPC, which there was a big wave, and then suddenly things balanced again. And you quite know the process, low pressure carburizing and vacuum, which I do believe it's a great process that has its niche. But I don't see atmosphere disappearing because it's very cost effective and it's proven technology. Do you have any thoughts on that?
Actually, we had a conversation this week. It was a big company that had a large LPC line, and it's been running for years, and that heat treat organization was moving towards getting rid of all oil and going to go to LPC. And as of yesterday, I heard they backed off. They're putting in some more oil quench furnaces, and found out that the cost effective, at least on this part that they're running, it's too expensive to run the LPC, and they're coming back to oil quench. on that same product that they've been running for years. So I think oil is going to be around. It's it's not going to go to LPC. But I
And
agree with you. There is a place for it,
yeah,
but it's not right. It's not what they thought it was going to be.
yeah, things are going to balance. When I say oil, I mean atmosphere, atmosphere on oil quench, and we have some of the big companies on vacuum to uh, to actually do hybrid systems like oil quench instead of gas quench. So uh, and this is my opinion, that the market is going to demand specialized processes like vacuum oil quench or high pressure gas quenching on vacuum, but in certain parts that are very that welcome very much that process, and the customer is willing to pay a premium because of the application. It might be medical or aerospace, but if there's a cost-effective way to heat treat stuff, it's atmosphere and quench and temper. Will that be something that you will agree with?
I would agree. Yes, that was it was a surprise for me, the conversation I had this week where I was, but they did pretty much say that they backed off from moving towards all LPC, and they're putting in several oil quench batch equipment now. So yes, I agree. But again, there's a place for LPC, but I think it's going to be the balance, like you said. There's going to be a place for it, and but oil quench will be around. Yes.
And let's shift gears a little bit, and let's go into a topic that I'm very passionate about, because that's also what I do for a living in one of our divisions, is the field service, installation, and maintenance. All right. You spend a lot of time in the field doing installations, doing safety maintenances, upgrades. Some people think that that must be an incredible life, traveling the world, seeing new places. But I imagine it is not all roses. What's the reality that you can share it with? You and I have been in many plants together. There's been great stories, great memories, a lot of victories that take a lot of work and challenges to come across. But it's a cowboy life. That's how I define it. Many people don't understand it. What's your experience in that? What can you share with the public about? You've been in China, India, Europe, Mexico, United States, uh, on the field,
Yeah.
and some people,
Brazil.
some Brazil, some people love it, some people hate it. But like you and I became friends. We had some amazing stories. I do believe that you might have some other Carloses in China or India that you shared great nights with, and drinks and same places. So, what can you share with the audience?
We want to first talk about one of my first experiences in field service in Mexico. It was in Monterrey, Mexico, 30 years ago. Who was I working with starting up a furnace, a car bottom furnace back then? It was your dad. That was 30 years ago. That was probably my first trip into Mexico for heat treat. And I worked with your dad. It was a very good experience. And then here we are now, 30 years later, and you're interviewing me.
And I can share with you that that furnace is still running pieces like hell. They love that furnace. We have done a lot of maintenance work in that one. So you did a great job with my dad, I guess, starting up that furnace, and it's been very reliable.
Yeah, he's a great guy. You're following some good footsteps there. But no, you talk about a cowboy life, can't be all roses. Let's put it this way: been in a lot of countries, but they don't put heat treats in like Cancun or Cozumel or you know, in the resort area. They're usually in the not so famous industrial areas. So to make anything of uh, a life that you want, you need to specialized set some time aside to visit some other areas if you have the opportunity. And I have over the years. And so it's a long, hard road out there to get the equipment running. But once you do, if you got time, try to enjoy where you're at. I've met good friends everywhere in every country that I could call on right now if I was in their country, and if I needed something, they'd be there with me. And you only did get by enjoying what you do, enjoying the culture. And is it all good? No, because if you got a life back home, you're missing a lot there too. So what I say is you have to have a very understanding partner. If you're married, you have a spouse back, you have to have a very understanding partner to live this life because there's a lot of time gone. But having said that, I wouldn't change a thing looking back. I've still been Carlos, last year they just came back and they gave me an award or recognition on after I got off of a flight on one of the major airlines. I made 2 million miles lifetime last year.
Whoa.
And it's like I look at the award they give me and I'm like, well, that's a lot of wasted time sitting on a but that's how much I've traveled. And I really look back after thinking about your question right now, right? I don't regret any of it. It's a good life. You make any job what it is. If you enjoy your job, you make it happen, right?
Those were very beautiful works, Don. Just would like to go a little further on that one because I do believe I know for a fact that field work it's a side of the industry that doesn't always get the spotlight, right? But I do believe they're like the Marines, like the real heroes, right? Engineering is very fancy, sales is very fancy, but I do believe that the Marines that are field guys don't get always the spotlight of the recognition. But it's so important and crucial to the industry. What advice would you give to someone considering a career on the field, service, or installation?
I would say learn the product that you're installing, starting up, inside and out the best you can, but learn to work with people too. The job, field service, is only positive, and you can only be good if you get along with the people where you're at. The people that you're installing the furnace for, the people you work with, they're partners. They're not an enemy when you go out there. And even right now, the field service guys in AFC where I'm at now, I have a place in my heart for those guys and all the time talking with them when they're out in the
Sure.
field because like you said, they are the Marines, the grunts of the backbone of the business, right? And they've got good ones, but I would say learn to work with people, and you have to have the personality. You can't be an abrasive personality to go out there and be successful. I I always took pride in the fact that when I was troubleshooting that I didn't know anything about, I didn't even know what the furnace was I was working on. But I went out there to talk to the operators, get to know them. They would always point me in the right direction, right? So I think the personality of dealing with people is probably 90% of this job. And then knowing the equipment. You get to know the equipment and
So just to close this section, if somebody is in the field service, hearing and watching to this podcast, a special mention to you guys. You're the real heroes. Now, Don, let's switch to.
But on
Go
top of
ahead.
that, well, I'm sorry, real quick. On top of that, there's if anybody's out there that's thinking about getting into the field, there's all kind of openings right now.
Oh yeah.
So
Oh yeah.
if anybody wants to learn or do anything, I'm not here to recruit people, but get a hold of me or there's always somebody out
Sure.
there.
If somebody wants a job on the field, contact Don. He's right. You'll have fun and you're going to learn a lot. I'll give you that.
Yeah, if
Or,
you want to travel the world anyway, right?
right.
Contact.
Uh, you will have such amazing stories. Now let's go to safety, because you're a safety expert. You run safety uh, for a big group, and speaking to big CEOs of your past companies, they spoke really highly of you regarding how you understand safety and how safety is such a critical aspect on heat treating, especially when dealing with complex machinery, automated lines, high temperature. In your experience, what are some of the most common safety mistakes you have seen in furnace operation, and how can companies better address these issues?
My thing is always telling anybody if something's unsafe they see, either shut it down immediately, walk away from it, or get somebody immediately. Don't take any chances, especially on these furnaces, right? You get people with little experience and then they're put out there on the job and they they don't understand something and they turn this valve off, shut this. They got to learn the system, whatever they're at. And they got to learn how to shut it down, start it up, lock out, tag out. That's huge, right? The big one with gas furnaces is making sure don't go into a confined space with yeah, without having the gas sniff, confined space entry. Um, and there's been people hurt or killed, right, with this going in when furnace is not gassed out. So just knowing what you got, knowing what's going on inside that furnace and around the furnace at all time is very critical. And before you do any work on it at all.
I do believe that that has great value. Sometimes people they believe fixing a furnace it's just twitching something and they go like, I'll just crawl in and fix it, or I don't know, I'll just open the door and try to see what's there. But that's a very big potential risk that might or might not happen. But just I love your advice. I never thought it that way. Like, don't take a risk. I mean, just shut it down, raise your hand. And I do believe that your manager or whomever is in charge, if you tell the guy, I mean, we lost production, but it was to an unsafe uh, uh, position or requirement, it was breaking some safety regulations, they will understand. And if they don't understand, you know, leave the company because it's putting you on risk.
And that's safety number one. And that was anybody that ever worked with me. That's what I would tell them. Shut it down.
Shut it down.
And what about that would be the question. What about production? Well, your life's more important than that furnace full of parts. Some people might argue different on that, but that would be my take, right? Their life is more important than anything that's going on there. So never take any risks.
I will agree on that, Don. To finish the podcast, and we talked briefly about this, but with your extensive experience, what advice would you give to the next generation of engineers and professionals entering the heat treat industry? How can they prepare for challenges and opportunities ahead?
It's just got to learn the process. They got to learn the process, and hopefully they have an internal need to have a challenge in engineering because there's always a challenge. Um, but basically, learn the process and learn it safely. And there's always going to be heat treat. It's been around since the beginning of time, right? And it's in one form or another. And as long as there's steel parts we're using out here in the world, there's going to be need for heat treat. So I just basically learn the process inside and out if you can, and find someone to mentor with would be the best.
Don, thank you so much for joining us. It's been an absolute pleasure. having you on the podcast, and or to our listeners, thank you for turning in. Be sure to subscribe. Remember, if you're looking for a field job, Don has one for you, right? A great one. 5 figures, right? 5 figures.
Yeah,
Right. Right. And stay tuned for more episodes with leader of the industries like Don Longenette. Until next time. Thank you, Don.